Dredge is a smart synergy of premise and gameplay. On one hand, it's a fishing game with RPG elements and a brisk, satisfying grind. On the other, it's an unsettling Cthulian horror game that gets a lot out of its minimalist storytelling. Dredge opens as a weather-beaten fisherman, seemingly desperate for work, pushes recklessly through the dense fog surrounding the town of Greater Marrow. After his vessel is dashed on the rocks below a looming lighthouse, the new and distrusted mayor of the town offers him another fishing boat that he can upgrade and pay off by delivering fish for the townsfolk. He directs the fisherman towards the most important contacts in the town, the fishmonger and the shipwright, and warns him not to stay out after dark. With that, you're free to explore a sprawling and sinister archipelago. Dredge has a narrative and quest structure that remind me a lot of the Falconeer, only you're limited to sailing between island docks, rather than soaring through the skies between perches in a flooded world. As in that game, the story unfolds as you interact with key NPCs and settlements, engaging in lightly animated, expressive, but unvoiced conversations that occasionally give you a degree of player choice. When it comes to resolving quests and upgrading your ship, this typically involves transferring the required fish or materials using the inventory and menu system. Impressively, and despite Dredge lacking any complex or cinematic storytelling elements, the story is still compelling, well-written, and incredibly atmospheric. There are plenty of outright paranormal elements, think robed cultists, supernatural powers, and literal monsters from the deep, but the most unsettling moments are spent talking to these secretive and unhinged locals. They're reluctant to talk about themselves, the former mayor, or the previous fisherman. Most claim to know little about the archipelago they inhabit, yet their fascination with the aberrant fish species and ancient relics is obvious. Before long, you'll find yourself hunting a peculiar selection of relics for a mysterious collector, all lost to the depths. It provides the perfect excuse to explore the outlying islands and interact with an expanding cast, while each relic you return grants you a new spell from an ancient book. It's a formulaic structure, but it works well, supported by a simple but effective quest log and map markers for main quests that'll keep you focused on unraveling the central mystery. For fans of Lovecraft's written work, the Cthulian elements and a few narrative twists should entertain, or at the very least amuse. Now, all that said, the storytelling isn't perfect. Dredge features a compelling but potentially grindy gameplay loop that can derail pacing if you don't consciously keep on top of upgrades and plan your outings. Mechanically, Dredge is wonderfully simple, intuitive, and strangely serene for 80% of the experience. You guide your boat between fishing and dredging spots while avoiding hazards. Engage in timing-based minigames to fish or dredge up materials and relics. Sort your haul using a Tetris-like inventory screen, and return to town to make profit and repairs. Time moves when you do, and night falls swiftly, so optimizing your route and improving your fishing vessel is the key to getting more done with each passing day. At first, just chugging across the bay between Greater and Little Marrow, maybe stopping to fish at a few spots along the way, will see you scrambling back after dusk. Visibility decreases as the fog rolls in, the panic meter increases, distant sounds and visual distortions unsettle you, while rocks can suddenly emerge from the gloom as you push back towards the comforting glow of civilization and a chance to rest until dawn. Now, I'll admit, it's infuriatingly slow going at first, and Dredge constantly highlights the stark contrast between relaxed daytime fishing and avoiding otherworldly threats during nighttime excursions. Excursions that are inevitable if you want to discover all species and complete all quests. The slightest brush with a rock damages your hull and sends cargo into the depths with it. Glowing red swarms rot your cargo, and other fishing vessels can emerge from the gloom with their foghorns blaring. Now, if you stick with it and complete some early quests, you'll soon find yourself with excess currency to purchase new gear, research parts to invest in new technologies that are added to stores, and some scrap material and storage for upgrades at the dry dock. You can improve your hull strength, expand inventory space for cargo, add slots for bigger engines, lights, and more complex fishing gear for different water conditions, and invest in new technology for passive income, like a trawling net or fishing pots. Completing quests and chatting with locals will often reward books that are read over time, eventually granting useful passive bonuses. Yes, it's an all-too-common loop of grinding to enable a more efficient grind, but the brisk pacing, narrative elements, world design, and atmosphere are what make Dredge special. The archipelago is wonderfully diverse, with 5 distinctive biomes to explore and fish in. Each offers a distinct visual style, soundscape, and atmosphere, along with a unique roster of aquatic species, water conditions, environmental hazards, and otherworldly threats that'll complicate your hunt for the key relics. Each biome functions as a mini-adventure, offering a few hours of questing, fishing, and of course, components towards new upgrades that are sometimes mandatory to progress. You'll flee a massive fish that stalks the flooded ravines of a fractured island, subdue a monstrous kraken in a tropical atoll, destroy mind-altering creatures in a maze-like mangrove swamp, and explore the Cyclopean ruins around an active volcano. The world's brought to life by simple but stylized visuals that make excellent use of striking angular designs, weather effects, vibrant lighting, and fantastic reflections. The visuals are all backed up by great ambience and a varied soundtrack that often feels understated, but ramps up when needed, providing much of the atmosphere during exploration or setting the mood for conversations. Wrapping up, Dredge has brisk pacing, a rewarding grind that doesn't make high-tier upgrades a chore to acquire, and an intensely atmospheric presentation that immerses you in its world. However, what impressed me most was the smart fusion of a grind-heavy gameplay loop, something I'm typically not a fan of, with a compelling narrative element and horror atmosphere, something I always enjoy. The more I played, the more I could upgrade, the more confident I felt, the more risks I took. I would head out before sunrise and push far into the evening, learning to handle the fog, the panic-induced hallucinations, and sometimes forego sleep entirely. The more I explored and the more relics I dredged up for the mysterious collector, the more it felt like I was making a terrible mistake. Dredge exploited my gamer brain, and, without conscious effort, I found my behavior starting to mirror that of the prior fisherman before he disappeared. That all makes Dredge a great example of what you can achieve with smart designs, rather than bloated budgets and cinematic aspirations. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow.